Okay. Good evening. It's February 15th. This is the February business meeting for the Hatfield School Committee. I'm Christy Boudreau, chair of the committee, and I'd like to call us into session. And to kick us off, as we open every month now, an opportunity for some mission moments, some ways to highlight things that show we're on mission for our district, and kind of a fun kickoff. Anyone want to volunteer a mission moment?
I did.
Oh, oh.
Yes, I did. I got a letter today in the mail from the Department of Ed, highlighting and showcasing one of our students who had either received an exceeding or progressing or proficient on the MCAS alt. So that's a first that the district has ever, or the
first time the
state has ever done
this.
that. So
Nice.
we did have a student who received that in 4th grade.
Can you explain what that is for those that are following along at home?
So we have every student in grade 3 through 6 have to are required to take MCAS. There are some who take a different version of MCAS. This particular version of MCAS is one that this is showcasing as far as the student's ability to show proficiency.
So they do a portfolio
Yes.
against the standards.
So it was a way to say,
Yes.
Right.
nice,
Yeah.
very good. First mission moment in. Anyone else? Connor?
I have one as well. Well, actually, can I share a couple?
Yeah,
So
good news.
we also had, they call it the Achievement Awards, the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. So we also had Achievement Awards at Smith Academy. We had 2 of them that came our way, which was great. We also, this is an older one, but since the last meeting, we celebrated this year's inductees to the Sophia Smith chapter of the National Honor Society. So we got to do that. So those students were Isaac Baranowski, Megan Bell, Emma Moynihan, Amelia Neves, and Aiden Whalen were inducted into our National Honor Society. And the last one isn't on my update because it just happened the last 2 nights, but Monday and Tuesday of this week, I was fortunate to be able to go to celebrate our seniors at senior night at their basketball games. And that was wonderful to celebrate them and their accomplishments. And I have to do a special shout out to the zoo crew that was at those games. And they were just like, they brought this energy that I'm sure you could hear it at the elementary school. It was wonderful to see that. So it was really nice to feel that at the games.
Committee?
I have one. Yesterday was Valentine's Day, and my 6th grader came home super excited and happy to have received a heart with her name on it, and roses are red, violets are blue. Be nice to others, they'll be nice to you. She goes, I don't know who it's from. So we looked on the back, and it's from Smith Academy. And she was just tickled pink to have had gotten a Valentine from Smith Academy. She thought that was so nice. And I do too. So it's my mission moment.
Yeah, so mine is in kind with that. I was speaking with a teacher earlier this month, and they were really stoked to see, and out of the blue brought up like, it's been really great to see the 6th graders coming up to Smith Academy. And so just the appreciation from 7th through 12th teachers who are recognizing just the spirit of cooperation and helping our kids see what the rest of the district looks like before it's their time to move up. They're recognizing that too and enjoying seeing it. So that was really awesome to see some because they didn't know that's like, oh, that's on your strategy list. It was just like, oh, this is really cool that this is happening. So nice job.
This connection is really nice.
Mm-hmm. It is.
I have one. There is an author among us. I don't know if he wants to raise his hand or not, but who has a series of books about skiing, which is a topic of interest in our house. We have finished the first book. I have a reluctant reader at home who is telling me if we can continue with chapters, he will read pages to me to continue in book 2. So fantastic books. They're about skiing, so it's timely. They're well written. They're nice for that 2nd grade level. So thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
I'm so happy to hear that he's reading them. I like them.
That's great.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
fantastic. The Thunder Squad.
Are they just published?
Mhm.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Cool.
Did
This
you
is
check
great.
it
Can
out
we
at the
get
library?
these?
Yeah.
Did he check it out in our library?
He didn't. So the first copy was gifted to us, and then we have subsequently been purchasing, and there's purchasing copies. And there's how many total?
There's 3 right now.
There's
Give me
3.
more,
So,
There'll be
all
more.
right. So keep them coming because we're
Are they in the
They are
elementary
in the
library?
Elementary library, yes. They
Yes.
donated some to us, so we have them in our library.
Nice. What's the name of them?
They're the Thunder Snow Squad.
Thunder
It's a
Snow
series,
Squad?
That's great.
Yeah, it's fun.
Wow.
I've been enjoying it. So
Sole author, or are you
Mhm.
with somebody?
yeah, well, I don't illustrate them. I can't do
You can't do that.
that. As Christy can attest to my,
Yeah.
my artistic capabilities.
I
they're
said
just-
nothing.
they're just-
Yes, we know.
Awesome.
It's part of my superintendent's report, but I do want to recognize all 3 of our administrators. A couple of weekends ago, I forget the actual date, but we just had a very difficult weekend. If anybody thinks that administrators do not work during the weekend, they're absolutely don't know what the job entails. But all 3 had work to do to build community, to sustain community throughout events that happened, different for each school and school leader. And some were there personally to take care of a group of our kids along with others. And they just rose to the occasion and just did a fantastic job. And, they gave me the play-by-play all along. So I'm very proud of them and everything they did. And I think it did help the weekend turned into Monday and a level of normalcy for everybody in both situations. So I'm really proud of them.
Thank you.
I would concur that that was really well handled. And the proactive nature of getting out to parents was impressive. So lots of good news. Okay, so with that, the consent agenda is just minutes from 118. Is there any reason to pull it off the consent agenda? Okay, so minutes from 118 are approved. Ms. Zinal, our student representative report, you are up.
All right. So Smith Academy has had a great few weeks. Both girls and boys basketball had their senior nights, and they were filled with lots of enthusiasm from the zoo crew. They were both great nights. The junior class held their carnation fundraiser and passed out beautiful flowers at lunchtime yesterday. The student council is holding a breakfast on March 10th from 7 to 7:45 a.m. So mark your calendars, $5 a plate, really yummy. And the student council is also running our March Madness Spirit Weeks next month. And there is a 2-week-long competition between advisories. And we just have some fun activities throughout the school, like dress-up days, door wars, scavenger hunts, and a pep rally at the end. And we'll be running penny wars, and all proceeds will go towards Shriners Hospital. So, yeah, it'll be an exciting month ahead of us.
Good deal.
Explain what a penny war is.
Yeah, so we were kind of thinking of maybe switching it this year, but in the past we've always done pennies. You can deduct points from other teams, but like silver coins, like quarters, dimes, that adds points to that team. So you want to bring in all of the quarters you have and put them in your advisories bucket, but you want to put all of the pennies you have in someone else's bucket. So it's a fun way to raise money, and they're all in the lunchroom and throw them in there, and it's great.
Oh, we didn't, I can come back to that. Okay, thank you though. Any questions for Ms. Zinal before we let her go to what I'm sure is a busy night of studying ahead? Nothing. Thank you, Hadley. We appreciate you
you.
coming in.
Thanks, Abby.
Yeah.
And before we get too far along, given that we did not see an audience, but we may have someone online with us, is there anyone online that would like to make a public comment? Okay.
Does that include telephones?
Yes,
Yes.
if there's anyone on the phone that would like to make a public comment, we would welcome you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for taking my call. This is Jean Hobby, school nurse manager, and I promise to be brief. I want to thank the school committee for agreeing to address the need for raising the substitute school nurse wages. Our need for substitute school nurses has escalated to a critical level, and this began in 2020 when our internal pool of highly qualified nurses assumed new positions and or retired from nursing altogether thanks to the pandemic. While administrators have thankfully taken on some of the nursing tasks as needed, the as needed rare scenario of having one nurse cover both buildings has unfortunately become the norm. I ask that you keep in mind the roles that all school nurses aim to provide each day, and would like to just briefly go over some of this. Our job is to assure the proper assessment and care for all students and staff for emergent, urgent, and non-urgent injury and sudden illness situations. We provide case management for ongoing student healthcare needs on a case-by-case basis. We serve as a healthcare resource to families and provide health education to students either via our one-on-one encounters, in classroom lessons, and on district website posts for families. We provide coordination of care within the district with families, other professional support staff and teachers, student health care providers, the Hatfield Board of Health and EMS, regional departments of public health, and the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association, and other affiliated organizations under the auspices of our district physician. Since September, we've had over 2,600 student encounters noted in both schools for either illness or injury. Of these, 102 visitors were sent home to recover and or referred for medical evaluation, showing a 95% return to class rate. And by the way, the DESE norm is 85%. So we work hard to help students stay in school and stay healthy and ready to learn. We've managed and cared for over 8 students who were diagnosed with a concussion following the very strict MIAA return to school and return to play protocols. We monitor reports and counsel families on protocols for infectious diseases. And thankfully this year, very thankfully, COVID has not been our overriding concern. However, we've kept an eye on this, as well as cases of RSV, hand, foot, and mouth, and more recently, what likely were norovirus symptoms in our students, both at home and in school. We provide screenings to all students each year, and we provide treatments for students who have chronic health conditions requiring daily care. And some of these students may have congenital conditions, they may have seizures, they may be living with diabetes. All of these conditions require nursing supports to help these students fully participate in school. Having at least one nurse present in each building helps to assure that students are healthy, safe, and ready to learn. The shortage of nurses is not unique to schools and certainly not unique to our district. However, prior to COVID, we had a team of 3 nurses who had connections with the schools who managed to come in to cover when we were short-staffed, and also to assist with some of the other tasks that I mentioned before. With this in mind, I respectfully request that you support raising the per diem substitute nurse wage to the level proposed by Mr. Wood, and to join us in launching a recruitment campaign to attract nurses from the Hatfield Public School community to help keep our current school community healthy and safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Nurse Jean. We appreciate you coming in and speaking tonight.
Thank you.
Okay. That was our one and only guest. Thank you for catching that, Jen. Okay, so we're moving on to item 6. The Recreation Committee is on our agenda, and they did not stand us up. We made sure that they had a slot on the agenda because there was some, at the time we put the agenda together, pickleball was still being sorted out. And since the agenda was put together, they have sorted out at least what's moving forward. And so they didn't feel the need to come visit with us. So right now, just an awareness thing, the pickleball courts are looking like they're going to be recommended to go behind the condos. so they aren't going to be near either of the schools per se. So we're tabling that conversation for tonight. And then we can move on to administration reports. Mr. Wood.
Yes. Just to start off, so we're getting closer to March 13th. That's a professional development day. Each of the principals and Director Bremner are working with staff to plan that. At the elementary school, the staff get to be a big part of the planning and choose their own PD in approval in conjunction with the principal. And at the high school, it's planned by the team of the teachers and the principal together. And so that's a big day for us. We did apply for a pretty sizable high quality instruction grant. We did not receive it. I think it's going to be something they're going to continue to offer. So we will certainly try to, if it comes back up, we'll try to do that. We are in the midst of trying to apply for a safe and violence-free grant, which is a security grant, and that's due Friday. So that's my days of trying to pull that all together. Ben Snyder has been a big help on that as well, to hopefully get that in time to do that. We are we still have a good patch up at the roof on HES, but we do have 3 smaller leaks, very close to different roof altogether. But as you know, the material that roof was made of is no longer made, and it's pretty much at its end of its life. And so we do have three other leaks, 2 that are kind of related to one another, we think. They're going to put a proposal. They were in last week to take a look, and they're going to put a proposal for us to take a look at to see if we can do a patch on those 3. We are really trying to nurse our boiler at the elementary school together, it is on our capital plan. I think it's in the capital plan being proposed. We said there are 2. We said we'd do 1 each year, this year and next year and the year after that. Here's to making sure that we get one of them replaced, and they are at their end of their useful life. Electricity continues to be a concern. It's a very complex world right now in electricity. We received a staggering bill from our partner that is supposed to be giving us credits. It's the AgriGrid company. They call it cow metering. They're supposed to get us a 15% discount off of our Eversource bill. We hadn't received our Eversource bill at the time of typing this up, so I don't know if we actually got the full benefit of what they charged, but our normal credit cost, it is a cost to us. That's why I don't quite understand how it works. But it's about a $5,000 a month bill, and it was $15,000. And so we should see a good majority of that off of our Eversource bills. So let's fingers crossed on that. We do have our new front door cameras and electronic key system in place at both schools. We're all trying to work it and figure out how it's going to be both efficient for us and the safety piece is the same because it works just like the old fob system did primarily. We will have fobs available. We have those on order, and we will get those in so that for people who don't want to download the app, they won't have to do that. And so we will have that. We do have a final date for schedule for installation of our phones at Smith Academy. That should be done Wednesday, the 23rd, over the break, when no one's in the building. So that should happen. Just kind of talking more about, the it's so impressive. This could also be a mission moment in many ways, but it's so impressive how our teachers and work with their students to help advance everything that we do at both schools. But recently, the journalism class at Smith Academy took on some of the mission of trying to develop a marketing video for our school, and it is posted. And so I got to see, I think, the very first video when it was in the drafting stage, and it's really great to see our kids and what their voice is about our school, and so it's definitely from a student's perspective, and people should check it out. I think it's both on Facebook and our website, so people should take a look at that. It's going to be coming up a little bit later, but we'll be talking. Oh, I skipped over another piece of money news. Mr. Halpin, our food services director, has applied for 2 grants. One is one was a supply chain grant that could help districts with the extreme costs of the supply chain this past few months, especially in last spring as well. And so he was awarded a $9,441 grant for that, which can be spent against existing future bills, but also we can go back and take bills that we've already paid and change the account that we paid them from within this fiscal year. And so that's very good. He's trying in every way he can to make our food services a going concern. And he also applied for a $19,000 grant from the Farm Fresh Food folks for purchasing farm fresh food. So that we look forward to hearing about that and seeing if he is successful there. For personnel, so we made some changes in the kindergarten. We're going to have a person that was in place for our special ed leaves of absence. And so we were going to have that person phase out, but she has agreed to stay on to help out our kindergarten situation. And I think from all accounts that I've checked in on this past week, it's been going well. So we're pleased about that. And we are very, very thankful to Lori Guerra for her efforts in this attempt. It really shows that everybody's helping to do the right thing for kids. So we're very pleased about that. We're still looking for a van driver for special ed, and it would be great if we could find somebody for that. Special education costs for transportation, and it's really ballooned as well to meet the needs of some students. So that's something that we would love to find somebody, if anybody's out there. I think your suggestion, Kathy, of looking at the not the HOA, but the COA, see if they had a driver available. They don't. I personally went to Jerry and asked, but they don't need the 7D license. And the others, I'll just we talk about them later in the agenda.
Sure. Okay. Questions?
Do we get feedback on the grant as to why we?
Yeah, there were 2 points. One was that they said that we're not using, because I had put down for work on our math curriculum and our ELA curriculum, and we don't have research-based curriculum materials on for our ELA. So they discounted us for that, but I kind of thought that was the purpose of it, because part of it was to do this long-range planning piece and have time with teachers to do it. So that was one piece of feedback, that we didn't have the materials already in place, because they wanted us to have the materials already in place. And the other one was that what was the other one? There was one other point. Okay. One was that didn't already have ongoing curriculum regular meetings to support the work that they would fund. So, which we did when we did the math curriculum piece last spring. But we haven't started anything with ELA, and I purposely didn't because I thought we would be able to do this and pay them, and we would get money from this. So
Mhm.
This is a, if you build it, they will come kind of grant. Like if we haven't done it, we're not going to get the money.
that's what it sounds like. Yeah, which is not how it read.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Can we reapply or no?
I think that we can, not in this cycle, but I think it's something they're going to do on an annual basis, yes. Because they have a big initiative to look at research-based material and getting schools to really look at it's not an exhaustive list, but it's a pretty good list of material. So we have good choices, but they really want you to pick from the list.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Just two quick questions. I know the answer to this, but does the roof patch working, does it change our capital needs or requests at all?
No,
Yeah.
because it's probably,
Or does it change our priorities at all since like,
That's
see, I would say no, because the roof patch that we got is under a very small section of the roof, and that membrane goes over all of it. So it's just time before something else gives way.
Okay.
So
and then on looking for the van driver, have we upped the wages that were?
we upped them for this year, but I haven't upped them since we have a vacancy.
Okay.
So in other words, the person that started the year in the job did get a raise.
But when we posted it, we've never gone back and reposted it at a higher.
No.
There's no drivers. Like the bigger companies don't have drivers. I'm not
sure
sure.
we've talked to neighboring districts about buddying up.
We have looked at a number of different.
They're in the same boat.
Yeah.
We
were even trying to lend somebody our van and maybe use their driver so that they could maybe launch, but there's no.
So if there was someone who was enterprising and looking to gain a job skill, what do they need to have to become a driver if they wanted to?
They need to get
Gotcha.
their 7D license, which isn't terribly difficult.
Well,
Although none of
yes
us
and
have done it
no.
yet.
So all of us did the training last summer, as well as one teacher. But you do the training, and then you have to get a physical that's a little bit specialized, and then you have to take the test. The physical has been what's held me up anyways, because the doctor's offices are all backed up, and I've been rescheduled about 8 times. That's true for the teacher as well. And I think you got there, but haven't been able to schedule the test because the test is actually only offered at certain times. Like it is really hard to get over. We try, like we had 5 of us do the training. And then the following steps are just taking for.
Is that considered a DOT physical?
It's not the same. We were told it's not the same as like a CDL, but you have to get it. It's a special form the doctor has to fill out. But I think he said there was only like one additional test than a normal physical or something.
Because my husband has to do the DOT physicals, and he's had best luck going to like AEIOU or MedExpress or those places, and you schedule them there and they have the forms. So that might be something to look into if they also do the 7D license ones.
That's going to be a challenge for the rest of the year. It's going to be a challenge for next year
Next
too.
year as well.
Well,
Yes.
And our plan for us getting certified was just when we have a sub, like when our one driver that we do have is absent, that one of us could hop on a run. We cannot be the full-time driver, any of us. So
Right.
even if we come to fruition, we're just a sub, which Mr. John Roberts still
I was gonna
is.
say, I was like, John Robert drove
Saved
that
us.
bus on
Yes.
more than a few times.
Yes.
Still does.
Still does.
Still does.
Still does?
Yes, he
Yes.
does.
He's
Oh,
our driver sub. Yep.
He's quite the hero.
So
Okay. So, yeah. What does the full-time driver position, do we know roughly what that pays? And
I want to say it's in the mid to high 16s.
and what's the time frame commitment look like for someone to do that?
To how many
So
hours?
They get up in the morning and they have to do a route between when and when? Like,
Well,
So we have various routes
Right.
that go
So
all sorts of different
there's
places. So
options.
there's plenty of options. We have routes that go from Hatfield to Westfield to Hatfield to Northampton. We have Heath to Hatfield. We have various options.
is it more
Um,
than 4 hours a day?
If they took a couple of the runs.
yeah, if we hired our own, it's possible that we could combine a couple.
Yeah, we could wiggle things around.
Okay. So there's it sounds like there's some flexibility in how big a job or small a job it might
Mm-hmm. Right.
be, and it would still be worthwhile,
Correct.
just to help frame out the possibilities. 'Cause
Um, But of the 4 contracted runs, because we also have we have some parents that do their own transportation we reimburse for. But of the 4 runs, we have 3 different companies because they did not have drivers. So that's not normally the case. Usually you can stick with one company, but we've been very creative this year.
From recaps, I'm aware and appreciative. I know it's been a lot, so if we think of anyone that might be well suited for that.
Did I see that it was either Rep Sabadosa or Senator Cofer sponsoring a bill to get schools more money for sped transportation costs? That was one of the things on
Yes.
Yes.
there. Worth
Yes.
tracking and maybe
Mhm.
reaching out and encouraging.
Indeed. Okay. Okay. Dr. Driscoll.
Right, thank you. So I shared the mission moment, so I won't share that again. The update I have tonight is mostly around the district improvement plan update and things we've been doing at the high school to support that. And so the biggest piece here is the kickoff to our school choice advertising push. It's a couple different pieces to this. So we had this was last week. We had a presentation to our current 8th grade, similar to what Smith Oak does when they come in. They present what they offer. We had our seniors who have been at Smith Academy for 4 years present what the different course options, the dual enrollment, the AP options, work study options. So all the things that they have taken part in that have been made their experience rich at Smith Academy. And they did highlight a number of things that came up earlier in the year as we were talking with the community, that there seemed to be a lack of knowledge about things like the work study and the AP offerings primarily were very well received, as well as dual enrollment. So we had them talk about that, and they did a great job. They did a fantastic job with it. We are hosting a open house for potential school choice families. That's on March 9th. And that's going to be the way that's going to function is going to be sort of similar to not entirely similar, but more similar to like a college tour than a traditional open house, where we'll have current students leading groups of potential students kind of around the building to talk about what they do in different areas, and they'll pop into classrooms where there's teachers who can talk about the courses they teach and the curriculum that they have. So those students will have a chance to meet current students, to meet the faculty, and to hear from current students what it's like at Smith Academy and ask questions. So we have right now we have 3 students who are signed up, and we're hoping for many more as we get closer. We've also kicked off a social media advertising campaign to kind of promote that as well. We had as Superintendent Wood mentioned, we had the journalism class, and this was a real kind of soup to nuts effort on their part. They filmed everything, they interviewed each other, they edited, they put everything together. So we have, if you watch the video, see there are different sections. what have you gained from your experience at, in Smith Academy Athletics and different pieces. And so there's several students that are featured talking about their experience with all those elements. And they say it better than I could. So it's nice. In addition to that, this week we did short interviews, verbal interviews with students from Smith Academy, both students who are school choice students and students who are from Hatfield, to do kind of portraits of Smith Academy students. So you'll see in the coming days and weeks, posts on our social media and maybe pamphlets from the school that say so and so from Hatfield, Massachusetts, and then a quote about what they something they've gained from Smith Academy. So those will be coming out as well. So that's kind of the advertising piece of things. Additionally, I've been meeting with departments to discuss and kind of revamp what we're able to offer in terms of classes and curriculum. And those have been really, really fantastic and rich discussions. So at the time of writing this report, I had met with social studies and science. I've also met with English now to brainstorm some new courses, things like AP Environmental Science, Exercise Science, which would be kind of like a health phys ed science kind of conglomeration, forensics, things like mythology and arts through the ages, criminal justice. So things that criminal justice we've sort of offered in the past, but it would be kind of a revamped version. So things that came up from the community survey that we sent out and that are of interest to staff to really kind of be a kind of a shot of adrenaline into what we offer. The English discussion is not on here. It was incredibly rich and involved kind of rethinking what the courses that we currently offer, what they currently offer, and how those can be featured. So rather than being English 1 or English 2, kind of having the names of those courses reflect what's actually done and taught in those courses, as well as potentially looking down the line of some creative ways that within that department we can give our younger students, 9th and 10th grade high school students, more choice in what they do, which currently 9th and 10th grade is by nature it has to be kind of you have those core courses that you're required to take. I've also met with the student council to talk about kind of, and this comes from a discussion we had last year, because even though it's only February, we're already thinking about graduation, end of the year, to look at drafting handbook policy to really kind of formalize those graduation expectations around dress codes, sashes, those kinds of things. So we'll have, for the next meeting, we anticipate to have an amendment to the handbook that we can bring to the committee for approval. So that sort of hits the student voice aspect of our district improvement plan as well.
Questions?
Busy month.
Yeah, very busy.
The interaction with the 8th graders about what it's like going through 9th through 12, did that kind of information about what we offer go to families as well, or was it just a conversation between seniors and 8th graders directly?
Right now that was just to the students, but we can certainly we'll as we generate the materials that we'll be sending out for or providing for the open house, that'd be a great idea to provide those for the current 8th grade and as well as to the elementary school about what Smith Academy offers. That's a great idea.
Just in thinking, when a student decides to choice out or to go to a charter school or something, it's, I'm sure, kind of a family decision. There's probably between 1 and 5 people helping make that decision. So more people who are aware of what we do, kind of balance it out.
And to the earlier point that kids aren't always the best reporters of news that they learn. What'd you do today? I don't remember. So if that doesn't improve from 7 and 8-year-olds, then I think Adam's got a good point.
To that point too, I wonder if we should be sending something home with our 6th grade students.
Honestly, I think there's an opportunity to have it all the way through the elementary school, because there are families making choices about where they live next year that are little bitty kids, and they're already thinking about what's going on at Smith Academy. And so we need them to understand the great things that Smith Academy does to keep them in our elementary school, because they want to stay and have that experience all the way through. I mean, that's what I hear. And you see that in school choice kids. I've had a chance to read some of the testimonials that the students in Connor have collected, and they're like, I've been here all 12 years, and they don't live in town. But this is clearly their community. And I think community is one of the things we have that not everybody else has. So we just have to keep that in mind.
What really jumped out at me from a lot of those interviews was the word family, which kept coming up again and again, where students were talking about how, there are times where it feels less like a group of kids going to school together and more about a family that's been together for a while. And I think that really speaks to what is offered.
Other than social media, how are you getting the word out there about the open house in March?
So primarily that's been social media. We're also, one thing that I didn't mention is we have we ordered yard signs for folks, and those can be for faculty, for students, for school choice families who can that they can put in their yards that have a direct link. You can scan it on your phone to the school choice page, which showcases the open house. So that that if you're,
But if they don't look at it, they don't scan that thing before March 9th,
yeah.
they're not going to know that it's happening.
Each of the schools is doing private tours. So even if they miss the open house, they can call if they see one of the signs, and we'll give them a personalized tour.
But in terms of advertising outreach, we haven't done. In the fall, we had done a radio advertisement. We haven't done that yet for this push.
Do we have any idea how much of a return on the investment from the radio advertisements? Was it worthwhile or not?
It's tough to tell, because at that point in the school year, most people had made their decision about where they'd be. So that was, we ran that in September as a lead up to when our school choice closed. So we did get 3 folks who came and toured the school because of that. None of those 3 end up choicing in at that point in the year. That's not to say that they won't return and potentially choice in for next year. So it's hard to tell if so the return on investment for that particular push didn't pan out for us then. That's not to say that it wouldn't now, but there's really no way to tell. And it was pretty expensive to run those ads.
And without some really specific, how did you learn about this? Like, it's really hard to know anyway. Like,
for comparison, we already have, that campaign on the radio gave us 3 tours that we know of. The current campaign that we have for social media already has, we already have 3 or 4 students signed up for the open house from that, which is.
And the cost difference?
Astronomical. It's much different.
And it's just Facebook right now, or Facebook, Instagram?
Facebook and Instagram, yeah. Meta, whatever's in the
Yeah.
metaverse at this point.
We do have one official application.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's exciting.
So to the end that we can be supportive every time, and I think everybody here is doing it, but if anybody was watching this later and you want to reach out and support this, if you go on Instagram, Facebook, sharing the original post is one of the best ways that we can help get that algorithm to shift so that it actually shows up in people's feeds. So every time we share it, we just help that move. So, and you never know, somebody might, somebody you forwarded it, shared it to, might decide they want to come check us out. So that would have been the other mission moment had I thought about it. So Kathy got a lead.
I did.
Nice.
I shared it with somebody who contacted their relative and they're looking.
That's great. And before we move on, I did want to give a shout out to Christy as well. My forte is not marketing or graphic design or anything that relates to that. And Christy's been a huge help in kind of developing taking some of the concepts of what we want to promote and putting them in a way that is visually appealing to, more so than a spreadsheet, which is what is appealing to me. So,
There's nothing
So
wrong
thank
with
you.
a good spreadsheet. Happy to help, truly. Okay. Anything else? Principal Petra.
All right. I had a mission moment that I shared earlier, but another mission moment, I know that we had mentioned it the last time when we were meeting that in anticipation of the women's UMass basketball game, I have to say though, it was unbelievable to see preschool and sixth graders sharing bus rides together, and the fact that we had like the best seats in the entire arena, because our preschool, though they were probably not as appreciative as the sixth graders would have been, were literally sitting right behind the women on their bench. It was awesome. So yes, that was a huge thank you to our PTA for supporting that. The kids have all had a great time. The duration of it and the timing of it was fantastic. They were awesome. They were well behaved. It was a great field trip. So we've completed our winter benchmarking for ELA and math. And again, I kind of give you some of our fall data compared to our winter data, both in iReady and in math. As you can see, there are increases in both of those, which was exciting to see. Also, again, as mentioned earlier, to ensure that our kindergarten class are prepared, we did join Mr. Kyra's class to Miss Guerra's class, as we now know that he has requested and not to come back until at least after April vacation. So that seemed to make the most sense. Our school council has created a survey. I have gotten 22 responses so far. We're looking at getting some more information and input about some of the questions around what we were looking to implement. I know, Spanish was one of the things that we were thinking was going to be a draw to what we wanted our students to be having next year. We put that out there as well as some others that our student council, our school council had also come up with. So I'm going to elongate that open link because I think I can get better than 22 responses. So I'm going to push that in my newsletter tomorrow, and then I'm going to send it out again over the Vacation 2+ portal. Like Connor, we are also going to host an evening, that same open house, that same time frame, purposely in the event that there are students at the high school level who may have students also at the elementary. We will have at least 4 staff members. I'm not so much students, but our plan at the elementary level is to have a couple of staff on each floor present, and then we're asking our classroom teachers to put out some work samples, some type of project that they're doing, that as people are walking through the hallways, they can see some student work and some work that's being showcased. So that's what our plan is for that March 9th date.
Questions?
Is there K data from DRA?
That's a good question. And we have spring, we didn't do the DRA. Did we do the DRA in the fall? We didn't do the DRA in the fall. We only did it in the spring. So we do have spring data, but we don't have fall data. That's part of the reason why it's not there. And again, the 6th grade, it would be apples to oranges. One of the things that we learned that Smith Academy was doing was they were using the iReady ELA data. And our 6th grade teacher, Jenny Charette, who is departmentalized and does ELA, said, it would be fabulous if I could have access to that same information and diagnostic, because then again, we can track and find out how well students are moving from the 6th grade into the 7th, particularly when they take it again in the fall. How much regression was there over the summer compared to what may have been something in the past? Jean, you're not muted. But it's still great numbers for the fall to see 80%. It's a true testament to the fact that before the pandemic, those students all had those foundational skills. They had in class, kids were in school in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd and 3rd grade when they were getting those foundational skills. So it's great to see that the fall data was 80%. That's fantastic for that grade level. But again, the data is different. It's not the same. I'm not comparing the same data because we didn't do the DRA for them. We specifically had done the iReady.
So I just want to make sure I understand, when we're looking at fall to winter, and then assuming there may be one more here, when you're testing and the goal is at or above grade level, are you at grade level for the month that you're testing? Or is it, this is what we think you need to be able to do by the end of grade X?
Great question. The goal is to be at grade level at the end of the year. So these students are already at their end of the year projection or above at this time.
So the goal is really to get everybody at or above grade level by the end of the year.
Correct.
So the fact that they're not all there yet is really not the worry.
Correct.
It's the progression that we were looking at.
Exactly.
And there's
the
a-
fact that we've seen some good growth.
And there's a lot of progression.
Yeah.
So I know we've had some questions lately in budget talks about, how our students are doing. So having data to go back and show that the investments we're making in curriculum and the PD that supports it and the budget that supports the PD is showing results.
Yes.
So, which we would expect would start to show up in the MCAS scores that get posted on the DESE website, but there's a lag that's probably scores that show up next year. Is that
Right.
the timing of that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Just two quick things. One, I have a couple of friends who are teachers at the Northampton schools, and they thought it was, let's just say, courageous of us to bring preschool to the basketball game. I'm glad that it worked out.
I say it was a mission. It's one of our action points under the pyramid model to make sure that the preschool is incorporated in all whole school activities. So that was part of that work. That originally it was kindergarten, and then our pyramid team said, "We have a goal," and so we added them in, and it was successful.
And I have to say also, part of the reason for that was because one of the preschool teachers had participated and gone to some of the games over the Christmas break and saw her students there. And she's like, they were completely appropriate and were able to sit and watch the game. It wasn't like they got bored and like wanting to get up and move away or running around the halls. So no, they were fantastic.
And my last question is, do we have an update on the elementary school sign?
I believe.
Apparently we're going this way.
Yeah.
I believe I just talked to her about 2 weeks ago. They have finished the other side, and they were not glazing it, but putting a coating over it, over the paint. So
Might it be up before the open house?
we'll push for that. Yeah,
I think that's a great deadline.
yeah.
Yes,
Yes, thank you for bringing
Very
that up.
measurable.
Totally forgot.
noticed that the other day too.
Good catch.
I ask every other week.
Okay.
It's Cody, your thing. I can do that. Just saying.
That's great, Dan. Okay, Director Brunner. Do you have an update?
So kind of a mission moment in on the ground PD. Myself and our STAR teacher, our special education teacher who runs the STAR program, traveled to Hudson on Friday. And this was a recommendation of Dr. Frank Robbins, who's our autism consultant, because we are, the STAR program is a newer program, and we wanted to be able to check in and look at an established program. So we spent the day there and had really came back with a lot of ideas and ways to move forward, and we're unpacking that with Dr. Frank tomorrow. We mentioned that we had hired Pat Murphy the last meeting. She has started. So she is the long-term special education teacher covering the maternity leaves. So she's in for Miss Swanson now. And she's hitting the ground running and is doing some evaluations and is in inclusion classes and is in pull-out small groups, and she's working with everybody. Melissa and I completed the Teapot training, which is the Teacher Pyramid Observation Tool training, and we are certified in that until January of 2026. So I had done the pyramid model in the past, but there's all sorts of different options within that, and I had not done the observation tool training, and it was very in-depth. It was 3 like 2/3 days, a little more than a half day. And it really gave us a lot of opportunity to think about what we were seeing in a real preschool classroom in videos, and rate it against the pyramid materials that we are working with and we've set our goals around. And we came away with ideas for kindergarten, ideas for the whole school. We came away with ideas for everything. So that was a lot, and I really appreciate Melissa hopping on that with us. I was able to join the Western Mass Sped Directors Luncheon, and I shared information about our Step Down program with several of those folks. So I was marketing and growing and those kind of things. I attended a Department of Developmental Services information session, and have been working with Kim Tran, who is our new mental health liaison, which is a grant-funded position. And so we're having him work on a lot of different ways to connect with resources. And he has several deliverable projects that he's working on. One of those is around DDS referrals. So he and I were working on that together. And a lot of thanks to Jean Hobby for spearheading the funding around that. And Nicole and Emily are partnering with Mr. Tran as well. So we have all sorts of connections with what he's developing and our needs. It's really, really timely, really helpful to us. An accountability update. As you know, we did the tiered focus monitoring last year. One of the items to work on, the age of majority, has been fully checked off. We're all good. The new procedures are in place and proven to be effective. And then we have one more check around timelines that'll come up in April. I don't have any concern about that. And then I didn't know this when I wrote this because they told me this Monday, but the circuit breaker audit's all done. I met with them this afternoon and it was all good news. There will be a report describing their findings, but actually quite in our favor overall.
Some questions? Okay. Thank you all for really in-depth reports. That's always appreciated. I know there's a district improvement plan check-in. I think we've probably spoken to most of this within. Is there anything, Michael, we need to call out?
I don't think so. I think we've kind of highlighted everything
Covered
that.
it all. Okay.
Could this be now or later?
Actually, that would be very much part of our district improvement. So Kathy, you want to give a little check-in about your recent
So
foray?
I went to Marlboro Friday and Saturday for the MASC leadership meeting. Most of the meeting was centered around officer orientation. I'm Division 5 secretary, so I'm an officer for our division. The brief takeaways that did not pertain to officers was a legislative update from the legislative subcommittee chair, Jason Frazier, who's from Plimpton. Excellent guy, very knowledgeable, has been working legislation for years. So he told us that they're continuing to work on extending the Perkins Act, which goes through fiscal year 24. And this is addressing the waiting lists for VOC schools and other equity issues. They're advocating and supporting the permanent legislation for free breakfast and lunch for all school kids. Regarding circuit breaker, they're working to change the criteria to only 3 times the foundation where it's currently 4, and change the amount of reimbursement to 90%, which is currently 75%.
That would be
So
huge.
they're
Pretty big.
Yes, that's be wonderful news if that goes through, but they are working on that. They're working on collaboratives being eligible for school building funding. There's the strong push for the rural aid, which we all know about because it originated out here, but it was very nice to hear that the eastern end of the state is now having unanimous support for the rural aid to go through to help us all out. There's a couple of House bills under Chapter 40. One would be to increase the amount of a reserve fund for special ed that would be jointly held with town government. And another one under Chapter 40, again, to be jointly held with town government to handle the fluctuations in regional assessments when belonging to a regional district. I thought that was important because there's always lots of talk about regionalizing. And that was something that I personally didn't know about, the fluctuating yearly assessments when you belong to a regional district. And he talked how it can go up 7 to 10% in 1 year and you're obligated to pay. So that's a huge uncertainty yearly with towns. So they were looking to create a special fund that would have money in there for like
To subsidize
subsidize
if
it if it was
crazy.
crazy. For all of you, I was told that the MASC website is still in the process of being updated and revamped. They've been having lots of issues with it. Communication from MASC needs to be greatly improved, and they're looking into a program that would use text messaging and for members to choose whether they want texts, emails, or both. And there's a plug for looking for members to join an ad hoc committee that will develop a shared vision for the foundation for the mission of MASC that directs staff and board members, that builds support and commitment among school boards and superintendents. And so they need to get moving on this right away. So if anybody has extra time that they would like to volunteer and join this ad hoc committee to guide the future of MASC.
I saw
that's
the
it.
look. I saw the look. I'm looking away.
Do not make eye
I
contact.
am not making eye contact. I'm dropping my pencil.
But it was a nice day and a half of networking and
Sometimes it's nice to know that we're not alone with some of the challenges too.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate the update. Moving on to school finance subcommittee report. Mr. Sullivan.
Hi. Just a quick update on our current fiscal year. We're down to 3 LOAs from 4 for the rest of the year. So that's a bit of an improvement, and we're excited that the roof repair is mostly holding. Beyond that, we're continuing to work on our budget for next year. We discussed with Mr. Wood that he's proposing an increase in preschool tuition. So we're budgeting in anticipation of approving that increase.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. We are expecting now a decrease in our REAP funds for next year. REAP is the Rural Education Achievement Program. It's federal funds?
Yes.
Okay. So originally we were getting, this year I guess we're getting 46,550. Next year it looks to be 38,000. And then further decreases in school choice funds beyond what we originally budgeted for next year. But of note, we're not going to make any additional requests of the town in our budget for next year. We're going to make it work. We are also starting to work on, let's call it a Plan B budget for next year. All departments are looking at increased needs for next year, and all departments are hoping, with all their fingers crossed, for a budget override for next year. But if that doesn't happen, we expect to get direction ahead of time to have a Plan B in place, to have a budget in place, so that we're not scrambling over the summer to come up with a budget to fit within the 2.5.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, of course.
So it looks as if, so we've had conversations with the finance committee and with the select board, and what sounds like will happen is that there will be 2 budgets prepared for town meeting, a budget that for the whole town, right? So there'll be a budget that we could live within should there not be an override. And there's limited free cash. And then there's what we raise with an additional 2.5%, which is what we can do that with. That's what we can ask for without an override. And then there'll be a budget. Here's, if we had an override, here's the other budget. What we do not know yet is if even our level service budget is an increase, just to keep the status quo of services. And what we don't know yet is, would we be able to do level services without an override? So there's the possibility that they're going to come back and that the no override budget might not fund everything we asked for, even aside from the investments that we're looking at. Because keep in mind, the investments are a pretty small dollar piece relative to our overall budget and the increase in general that we need to keep level services. So the plan B is looking at having that would help us know, and frankly help town know too, if we don't get the override, here are potentially the cuts that we're looking at. Until we know what that first budget is, we don't know if it's cuts or it's not cuts, because we don't know if our level service budget would get in there or not. Because it ultimately depends, because other departments have legitimate bigger needs too. It's not. So did that make sense? Particularly for those of you who have not been sitting in budget meetings. But it's, if we have to go to that plan B, it will have some teeth, I think. So we've run pretty lean. So
just finishing up, we did meet with finance on the 2nd to present our budget. We had a great conversation with them. We met with the select board on the 7th to present our budget as well. Got some feedback there, and looking to see what the next steps are for the 23-24 budget. Just some context from other towns, because I know, even level services, we're looking at an over 6% ask for next year. So I looked at the Frontier Regional System. Frontier itself for the high school has not yet presented a budget. They're waiting for the state to say what their budget's going to be. But the elementary schools all have proposed budgets, and with the exception of Conway, they all have over 6% increases in their budget for next year for level services as well. Deerfield's 6.6. I'm sorry, Deerfield's over 7%. Sunderland's 6.6. Whately is 6.6, and Conway is 3.7% increases over their current budget for their town asks. So we're not alone.
and what we're looking at isn't out of line with those either. I mean,
No.
yeah. So I would characterize those meetings as people have been supportive. I mean, I don't think anyone's come at us with like a, are you crazy or you're being unrealistic or any of that. So, and I think the things that we have proposed in terms of like, what would we do with the money and what do we get out of that? I think people have been responsive to that as well. So the idea of adding foreign language at the elementary school and having a destination program at Smith Academy, like those were big wins when we sat down and had these conversations. So
That is, the caller has their sound on.
I think if we just
Jean?
mute
Yeah.
your,
Can you just turn off, can you mute yourself?
I think you can mute.
Thank you.
So,
Couldn't hear that.
okay. Adam, thank you for looking up and getting what's going on in some other towns. There's been a lot of sort of ducks under the water, a lot of swimming that hopefully doesn't look like as much work as it may be, but we've been trying to do a lot of background this year just because there's going to be some big questions on the table. With some of the changes that, in terms of where that budget is and what's coming. I'm just looking at, I know we have on our agenda tonight to vote on school choice open seats. And so we have voted to allow for school choice. We have voted to open school choice seats at every grade level. That gets us up and moving and doing what we need to do. The number of seats specific per classroom isn't something that we actually need to decide right now. And I would just like to table this because I think if we had to make changes, it might be better to know we need if we had to make changes. So with that, I'm just going to save us the time tonight. And if you have questions based on what Michael sent, we have some time between meetings to take a look at that. And with that, we can move on to talk about preschool tuition.
Yeah, so in looking at a number of things, historically, we have not raised in Hatfield our tuition for a number of years. As best we can tell, just maybe 2018 was the last year that we raised. We're not out of the range of tuitions. I did find a report that actually Frontier did last year in preparation for this year that I shared, and the rates are we're maybe in the middle toward the top, and so in looking at some of our budget needs and so forth, and who we compete with. My recommendation is in my my report as far as what we should go for. I'm pairing us with the Hadley School District in terms of their rates, in terms of the kind of programs that would go for it. So it would be 6909. 50 for a full 5-day program. And then we have some iterations of that for each of the 4 days and so forth. I didn't put in there, but obviously if they're half days, then do we have half days? No, not really. So that's why the half days are in there. So those would be the rates that I would recommend, and this would fit our budget needs based on, unfortunately, only 1 year of data in terms of who pays tuition. But I think it's pretty close to where we'd be. I did it on the lower side so that hopefully we wouldn't under generate revenue.
So I just did some math on this, like the little back of the napkin version, to try and put the numbers into context of how you think about childcare dollars, which you pay by the hour. So it's not apples to apples, but it approximates. And so just thinking about the number of, there's 180 days in a school year, and we divide our preschool payments by 10 months. So there's 18 days of preschool in a month. A day is 6.5 hours. So that's 117 hours a month. So today's $650 a month is costing parents about $5.56 an hour for preschool. And the increase that we're looking at would go up to $5.90 an hour. So I just wanted to give some, just like when you look at a whole year's worth, but also consider the per hour. I looked at some preschool tuitions, and there are many districts who are in the $7 an hour range. So even moving up to, I think there's something for not having us just jump to something that's huge to offset a budget. I think this is a pretty minimal raise relative to what else is out there. Like,
it also keeps us very appealing compared to private daycares and home daycares and other preschools, because those costs are almost twice.
right. So,
And we, within the last couple years, at least, have the preschools been full.
and we want to stay full. Like there's so many benefits to that for us and for kids. So yeah. So it raises a little more money, which is awesome because we're going to need it. But it is not a giant leap for what we're asking parents to do because there's a lot of cost increases in parents' lives, and I don't think any of us want to add to that. But this seems like a modest, reasonable increase.
Is there any benefit to rounding up those dollar amounts? Like they're just.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Makes it
Maybe it's
easier
a
to
little-
write the check.
Yeah, I'm thinking
literally.
parents writing a check
You're
and,
reminded how
it's
to
like,
write a check, though.
oh, it's, 19 cents. Like,
On that
mean-
note, the writing the check was when I was digging through for this too. The frontier schools, the elementary schools, they all take electronic payments for preschool through like the Unipay Gold, like the same thing we use for
Yeah,
paying our
we-
water and sewer.
We'll look into that with our MyBucks system for that.
Okay.
It's on my list.
Be able to Venmo your preschool payment.
I don't know Venmo, but
But it would be good for us to get
Yeah.
with the times.
so is there any benefit to rounding these numbers
I'm
or
fine
is
with
it,
that,
I don't know, like
as long as we go up.
So long as they divide by 10 nicely, I think we're
That's right.
I would
okay. So what,
support that, but I don't know what that means to voting on this tonight.
It's just to say the number is with it rounded.
so is it, are you thinking the 690.95 would become 700? A $10 difference? Or are we
I
wanna
don't
round
know.
it to 690? I think either way is
Let's not go down.
not breaking
No,
the
not
bank.
go down. Either way, it's not going to break the bank, is you're right.
I think just
6910.
let's talk about it in terms of monthly payment because
Mhm.
that's really what people see.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I've got the old one in front of me right now. And for 2 days a week, it was 260 a month or 2,600 a year. 3 days was 3,900 a month or 3,900 for the year. So,
Nice.
right, I think, so I don't know if that's something you want
Yeah,
to
I
try to
think-
get closer to that type of,
I
Those
think
type of
having clean
numbers?
numbers like that just really makes,
It will make the accounting of it simpler too. I would think.
yes.
So if we just did off of this, if we just did
So
If
if
it was
the-
140 per month for one day. And
Right.
then just
Yeah,
multiply up
multiply
the
it out.
days.
or 1,400 for the year,
right,
would it be 280 for 2 days?
Yeah.
Yeah.
420 for 3 days and 560 for. I'm just throwing those numbers out.
Yeah.
I'm just-
that's
Yeah.
good.
That's
If you're-
where
if
they,
you're looking at the
I
rounding
mean, that's where
piece.
they move.
And then
Yeah.
700.
I think that
Five.
makes.
Yeah.
Much
And then
better
that
sense.
goes up to 7 even for 5.
Right.
Mhm.
So what's 415?
Or 20.
420.
So 700 for 5 days, 560 for 4, 420 for 3, 280 for 2,
He's still working on 4 days.
I got it.
and 140 for 1. I just want to make sure that we're all. Okay.
And then the,
Still so reasonable compared to what the daycare costs are. I mean, daycare costs are 15,000 for the year. It must
Yeah.
be at this point. So.
I mean, and that's really what the choice comes down to for
Mhm.
some families.
Sure.
So, with the adjustment of the rounding, would anyone like to put a motion on the table to
Oh.
increase
I will
preschool
move
tuition?
to increase the preschool tuition as amended on the superintendent's report.
I'll second.
Is there any additional conversation about preschool tuition? Okay, all in favor? Aye. I see no opposed, so that passes 4-0.
I know. I was wondering if I should recuse myself since I actually have another one coming into preschool.
You were just a Good representative. Okay. Also well, actually, technically, I apologize. We don't have a vote on that tonight because there could be, it's not on our agenda to vote. So it's a mistake on the chair's part, and she apologizes. So
I have to rescind my motion.
thank you. So we know we could have a vote. We know when we put the notes out that we're looking, I will make sure that notes reflect the amended amounts. But
Did you rescind the second?
I do.
thank you. Sorry. It just seems so reasonable. We're all jumping ahead. And it originally had a schedule for a vote, but I'm like, there could be folks that have something to say about that. And when it hits constituents' pocketbooks, we should wait. So that'll be back in a month. If people want to speak up, they'll have a chance to do so. So sorry. We really do need to vote tonight, however, on budget transfers. And I've printed a copy of those for you. And if it would be beneficial, I'm happy to share. I just did a quick look at some of this, if anybody is interested in some top line notes. By and large, the place that so the transfers are just places that we have money that we just need to shift over to cover expenses that were a little unplanned. And primarily the spot that caught my attention was that, and we could never have forecasted for this, is really in building and maintenance kind of areas. So, additional funds for electricity, for for maintenance and supplies, and for building contractual services. Those are the real, those total up to about $15,000 that we could not have foreseen. It doesn't feel like it was a budgeting error.
Right.
It feels like who knew that some of this was going to happen. And so it comes out of a handful of pockets. The one thing that I was concerned with when I first looked at this, it was like, wow, we're taking a lot of reading recovery. It looked like a lot of reading recovery money, but when I totaled that up, it really was fairly small. And I think it's probably because there was a salary change in the staffing. So it gave us a little bit of wiggle room.
Do you have a grand total of the transfers?
I didn't do a grand total of the transfers because some of them were just so catching up. Like I didn't, the teacher salary stuff, it was just shifting where the salary bucket was. I really just tallied up the stuff that was surprising or unforeseen. Michael might have a total.
I don't.
Because I was going to make a motion to approve the transfers that total X amount of dollars.
You want to word it that way, and then I'll find the number and
Yeah,
put it
I'll-
in there?
Or we could approve it as presented.
Yeah.
Be fun to watch at home.
Competing computers.
Oh, it'll be a good fact check. I got 159,000.
Same.
That's what I got.
Okay.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the budget transfers that total 159,000 as presented.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Next up is a vote on substitute nurse pay, which I think we are all up to speed on the need for good
Right.
substitute nurses. Is anything you want to say about this?
Nothing to add except that the original document I presented at last meeting also had the teacher substitute rates. I want to hold on that simply because with the budget the way it is right now for FY23, I just don't think that we could afford to do it without using resources that we may need in emergencies for like buildings and so forth and electricity and things like that. So I just don't want to do that. The money for this change would be primarily with what we already have in the budget plus grant money.
So
So I see a per day amount and a per hour amount. Are there times when we only need a sub for a couple hours? I mean,
It's rare, but it does happen when, when the person just needs to leave for the afternoon or something like that, for an appointment or something like that,
Or for field trips.
or field trips.
okay. All right, I'll make a motion to approve the substitute nurse pay increase as presented.
I'll second.
any discussion? A lot of gratitude to the nurses, and hopefully this will help us get some substitutes into that pool. All in favor of increasing the substitute pay for nurses?
Aye.
Aye. And no opposed. Thank you, Jean. And substitute pay is approved. Next on the agenda is fiscal 24 budget. I think we sort of talked about that a number of times, but I will see, does anyone have any questions or anything that they want to discuss about that budget? Okay, then we will move on to policy subcommittee report. Kathy, are you going to speak up on that for us tonight?
So, policy subcommittee met in January, and then we were going to meet again last Friday. And Becca was unable to attend. And Becca has been the chair of the subcommittee and the one that was keeping all the notes. And so we're not prepared to give you all of the ones listed. The one that I would recommend voting on this evening is the BBBE policy, which is unexpired term fulfillment. And the change that was made to that is simply in the first line. We added including failure to elect, which is what we went through last year with a historic tie. So adding that language in there was the only change that we proposed. The rest is governed by law, because we did check with our legal team about making another modification in there, and we were told we could not. So,
Okay. So I'd like to put a motion on the table to approve edits to BBBE. Is there a second?
are you going to waive the readings? That was our recommendation because,
Gonna put it on the table and then we can waive them.
okay, I'll second.
Okay, so it's officially open for conversation. I have one small edit request. I thought that the Board of Selectmen is now officially referred to as the Select Board. So I would just suggest changing the two occurrences where it says Board of Selectmen or Selectmen to just refer to the Select Board. It's not changed anything other than,
It's an easy edit.
I'm personally comfortable waiving readings. That's,
Name too.
So just so I understand it right, and so anyone watching understands it right, if there is a position that needs to be filled, we vote concurrently with the select board, that we vote together as one?
Yes.
Okay.
So if one of us were unable to complete our elected term and we left, within 30 days, we have to notify the select board that we have a vacancy. And 1 week of that notice, the select board and the remaining four meet and vote on filling the position. conversation that we had in subcommittee was to change it to after at least 1 week's notice has been given, so that it gave a little leeway. And we were told, no, that's what the
That's
law
it.
states, that's what has to happen. And we also asked about, well, what if we decided this vacancy occurs in March and we think the 4 of us can go forward until the election in May, we don't need to fill it for that short period of time. The select board has the final authority, and if we don't choose to act on jointly filling it, they can appoint somebody on their own.
So
So,
it gets filled.
yes, it will jointly get filled.
Okay.
But that's the way the law states. There can be a dialogue with the select board of, hey, we're this close to the election.
Yeah.
It makes sense to wait. And if they agree with us, then they agree with us.
Okay.
But we had to keep the language as it was.
Gotcha.
We couldn't write in those nuances.
Okay. Any further conversation? So there is a motion to accept an edited version, which can include select board and the addition of including failure to elect, which is written in your notes. So we can move on to the vote, which would be inclusive of all. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So we have approved an edited BBBE, unexpired term fulfillment. Last on before we leave the policy subcommittee, I understand that GBA, GBD, GBEB, GBJ, and GCBC will all be coming back soon. You have links to take a look at those. If you have notes about those, you are welcome to forward those into the policy committee, which might expedite their approval. Because there are likely to be very small edits at most, and we could probably get them in one night and move forward. So with that, we will turn our attention to the school calendar for 23-24. I think for the committee and for our administration, I did a quick printout. I did it for the visually impacted, so you have my highlighted copy. Forgive me. I had to my sad eyes. So, Michael, am I correct that there's only one change from the last presentation?
Yes, the
The P-
November 7th date is the universally desired date for the regional PD.
Collaborative has
Collaborative.
confirmed it.
So
So,
doesn't mean we have to. But it is a valuable PD day for especially our singleton teachers, because then they can get together, music, art, PE, health. They
Yeah.
can get with colleagues across the county and the 2 counties. And then I did look into getting with the times. I have our tech crew looking at, we can create a Google Calendar essentially with an RSS feed that would allow us to just put that on our website, and then families can just download it to their device. So I didn't pretty it up
okay.
more than this. I have it done that way, and we can also put that one on our website, but it will be essentially a Google Calendar.
So the request was, could the district create this so that every parent could just download digitally and have this add to their calendar, so that, you're not surprised that it's a half day on Friday coming up or whatnot, or that it's just there for you and you don't have to go looking for it. So what's the feedback? when we changed that PD day, did staff have any feedback about moving that one day from the 7th, from the 9th back to the 7th?
I did not hear back from anybody, but I don't think I made it known that that was a change that we were making. So the feedback that I got is the university, they want to have that available. So I didn't ask that specific question to be.
Okay. It's kind of a ridiculous schedule in that kids would be out on a Tuesday and then again on Friday.
But it's happened before.
I'm sure it has, but I'm just going to say we can do it because it's the right thing to do for our teachers, and I'm happy to support that. From a family planning childcare needs, it's crazy to go to school, and I can't be great for kids to go to Monday and then be off and then back on Wednesday, Thursday, and then off for a 3-day weekend. It's a little nutty.
Easier when it's planned for, harder when it's like a snow day or no
Fair
school day.
enough.
But yes, I hear you.
It's not without cause, I
Right.
get.
That December early release day on the 15th says conference. Are we having 3
Is that like a-
conference days?
No, we're only having 2.
So is that the regular
No, they should all be.
curriculum half day?
That's a regular curriculum half day. Yes.
So if we could get rid of that, so parents aren't thinking that they have to do anything with that.
Whoa. I think you guys are saying, I'm hearing 2 different things. Is the 15th still,
It's still an early release day.
it's still an
yes.
early
Yes.
release day?
Yes, but it's not a conference.
Right. Parents don't have to show up.
The conference days got moved to
Right.
October. They were in December.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
to me, it looked like that there were now 3 conference days.
Mine doesn't say conference. Does yours?
Yes.
I
Yes.
just erased it.
Oh,
I'm being.
see, mine doesn't do that.
So still an early release, just not available for conferencing.
October, conference 20.
6 and 20.
So I have double checked this previously against Bill Gavin's holiday calendar. It's got all the right dates off. And it's 180 days in school. And we've checked it against the teacher's contract for all of the PD days.
Mhm.
And those are all according to contract.
We've got New Year's Day on here.
Yes, we do.
And our 5 early release days for
Yes.
Yes.
teacher work days.
Say, as much as there are some folks that I know managing half days for kids is really rough, particularly parents who are both working outside of the house. We have far fewer half days than some areas around us.
Absolutely. And, you
So
know,
we used to do them on Wednesdays, which
it was very difficult. I'm
was
sure.
very
Yeah.
difficult for people.
I mean, we can start the year this year, assuming that we have everything in a go position for our aftercare, and look at hiring non-teaching staff in addition to be able to manage those half days
Yes.
differently.
That is my biggest request with our calendar.
Yeah.
Can we find some options for our elementary students, particularly
Right.
on half days?
You just have to have enough staff to be able to manage
I hear you.
however many people request it.
Gotcha. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the calendar?
I'll make a motion to approve the calendar.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposed. Okay. Thank you, guys. You're really efficient tonight. Lovely to see you all. And
Wow.
our next
Early.
meeting is March 13th here
A
at Town
Monday.
Hall. It's a Monday night, so it's our new scheduled night. We probably will be recording via Zoom, and we will do our very best. So there's some possibility we might change locations as a result. Stay tuned. In the meantime, winter break and 2 fantastic open houses that we can look forward to. So, and maybe a yard sign for you each. Let's see if I've got some sway on that. say. Is there a motion
I
to
don't know
adjourn?
that Jen and I would really need a yard sign.
You are
Well,
in a bit of a dead end. Also,
We are on a
You
dead
do,
end.
Melissa.
Street, so.
Yes, the three of us.
I'll put one at my mom's
Between the
house.
three of you, would you put up one yard sign somewhere before you get to the road?
It doesn't have to be on your property. Maybe you have
That's right.
friends.
That is true. I could do that.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And thanks for watching.